pretty crazy how Melee has managed to stay relevant for so long. For a game with no new content expansions or any balance patches in over 20 years, and with numerous successors, Melee and its community continue to strive and have become more accessible now than ever. However, that all applies to the competitive scene. It's what keeps this game alive and what makes it stand out in comparison to every other entry in the series. But the Melee play today might as well be an entirely different game from the one people played back in 2001. I mean, only 6 of the 29 stages are played on, half the roster isn't given a shit about, and the matches you see at tournaments are only one part of this entire package. Meta isn't generally talked about outside of the competitive community, and why would it be? Most casual players are just gonna play the newest entry because it's the most accessible. I mean, why do you think nobody talks about Smash 4 anymore? Basically everything it has is better in Ultimate, so there's almost no point in going back to it. Unless you're a really big fan of custom moves or, God forbid, Smash Tour. So while Medi has stood the test of time thanks to its community, what merit does it exactly have to revisit it when you take that away? When you just look at the game as it is in comparison to every other entry following it? Well, that's what I'm here to find out. So with that being said, let's get into it. For the 10 people out there who don't know how Smash Bros. Works, I'll keep it short. You pick a character, beat the crap out of your opponent with a variety of moves until their percents get high enough, and then launch them off the stage. It's the progenitor of literally every platform fighter you see nowadays, and it's been going on for a very long time. Medi is the second entry following the original on the N64, and as a result it had the task of being bigger and better in every way. In only 13 months. Yeah, it's no secret that Medi's development was not the best, to put it lightly. But it was eventually released, and on the same day as Pikmin no less. Poor Audemars didn't stand a chance. So what exactly does this game have to offer? Well, there's Classic Mode. That's a start. A gauntlet through a bunch of CPU-controlled opponents, ending with a battle versus a sentient hand? Ah yes, video games. Although Medi did introduce Crazy Hand, essentially Master Hand if he took a shit ton of edibles, Classic Mode made it thankfully improves upon my main issue with it in 64 in that the opponents you fight are actually randomly generated instead of being just the same order every single time. However, none of that really matters. The main draw to the single player content in this game has to be the adventure mode. A trek through a bunch of stages from various Nintendo franchises with some fights sprinkled in between, ending in a climactic battle with the newly introduced Giga Bowser. It's alright. I like the concept, but it suffers from the issue Classic Mode fixed of just being the same thing every run through. I understand it kinda has to be that way given its structure, but while it is fun the first time around, I don't really tend to replay it much. However, you can unlock Luigi if you beat the first stage with a 2 at the end of the timer. You only have 14 characters to start, which, to be fair, is already more than 64's entire roster. But the other 11 have to be unlocked, generally just by doing stuff in the single player modes, or by playing a shit ton of versus matches. For example, Pichu and Ganondorf are unlocked by completing specific events in the newly introduced Event Match mode, basically a mode consisting of a bunch of themed fights. For instance, Event 1, Trouble King, is a classic Mario vs Bowser showdown. Dino Wrangling puts you up against a giant Yoshi that takes yourself out in less than a second. And the final showdown, which just wants to ruin your day. There's also Multi-Man Medi, where you fight against these wireframe opponents, essentially replacing the fighting Polygon team from 64. You can either have it be a test of skill, a test of patience, or a test of sanity. Guess I won't be unlocking Sonic today. Clearing 100-man Medi unlocks you Falco, and it's pretty easy if you're willing to sacrifice your GameCube controller's B button. This mode is a part of the Stadium menu alongside Home Run Contest, a mode where you beat the crap out of a sandbag for 10 seconds before sending it flying with a bat, and Target Test, which is actually fun in this game, since each character has stages specifically designed for them and their movesets, unlike whatever Brawl tried doing. In general, Medi has a nice selection of single player content to mess around with. You could argue it's better than it is now, with modes like Event Match and Target Test just straight up being abandoned. Honestly, my main issue with it is that for some reason you can't use the C-stick in any of the one-player modes. Why? There's really no reason you shouldn't be able to. Hell, you can enable it with cheats. It just feels wrong. Like, mapping tilts to the right stick. But the main draw of this game, and really the series, has and always will be the multiplayer aspect. There's your traditional time and stock matches, as well as the newly introduced coin mode. It's definitely a mode, alright. Medi actually lets you put time limits on stock matches, so you can no longer have matches that last for 50 minutes. But the two main additions to the multiplayer are Tournament Mode and Special Medi. tournament mode speaks for itself, but it is a nice addition. Special Meta, however, just adds a slew of different modes to the fray. There's Stamina mode if you ever want to play Smash like a traditional fighter, play where everyone's really big, where you can't see shit, or where everyone spontaneously combust on impact. There are some that are also just really dumb, like single button mode where you can only control your character with the control stick and the A button, but they do add variety, I suppose. The gameplay feels way more refined than Smash 64 with the addition of side specials, air dodges, charged smash attacks, and overall the game just feels a lot more responsive and fun to play. It's pretty surprising how close Melee feels to Ultimate just in terms of basic controls, whereas something like 64 feels way more dated and antiquated in comparison. If that was the first entry in the series, Melee's the first one to really feel like Smash, if that makes any sense. It does have the downside of having a crap ton of clone characters, most likely a result of the rushed development, but it does make the roster feel a bit samey. And why Ganondorf has continued to stay the Captain Falcon clone even now is still baffling to me. With how early Melee launched in the GameCube's life, it's so weird seeing these franchises on the GameCube with new designs not being representative of their GameCube titles. I obviously know why, but still. Like, the Mute City stage still uses the models from and is based off the version from F-Zero X, which is strange when I know F-Zero GX is a thing. Mario doesn't have his Flood Pack since Sunshine hadn't released yet. Samus is based off her Super Metroid design and not her Prime one. Hell, Frox's trophy just straight up uses his model from Star Fox 64. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about trophies. Trophies are like little figurine collectibles that you can usually find scattered about in the adventure mode or nab during these segments in classic mode where they fall from the sky and you have to make sure they land in the middle. You can also unlock some by completing certain criteria, but really the main way you're getting these is by gambling your life savings away on this gumball machine. I miss these things, man. Seeing all these unique models, reading all the little descriptions, all this fan service for games that aren't even represented anywhere else in the game, just here to celebrate Nintendo's history. I also like seeing all the weird obscure characters, like Ayumi Tachibana from Famicom Detective Club. This was way before those Switch remakes came out, nobody knew who the hell this character was. And I think it's safe to say people still don't. And Tom Nook? Animal Crossing wasn't even a thing in the West yet, they were pre-ordering characters. Some of these you can't even get anymore without hacking, and the Automare one is just a straight up real world paywall as it requires you to have a Pikmin save file on your memory card. All I'm saying is thank God for GameFAQs. Ultimate got rid of these things in favor of spirits, which are so much lamer in comparison. But that brings us back around to the central question of this video. What exactly is the point in going back to Melee when something like Ultimate exists? Ultimate has way more characters, way more stages, better visuals, more music variety, online play, an entire single player campaign, and so much more. It is, by all accounts, the ultimate Smash experience. Of course, the main reason would be the lively competitive scene, but casual and competitive Melee are by all accounts not the same experience. And while I love competitive Melee as much as the next person, and things like Slippy have been keeping the game alive more than ever, at the end of the day, this is a game from 2001 with only 13 months of development time and a sequel to a series that's identity had yet to be fully established outside of just being a cool concept. For Melee to have had the impact and legacy on not only the series, but Nintendo as a whole is seriously impressive. I mean, come on, it's the reason Nintendo keeps making those GameCube adapters that go for outrageous prices online. However, it's also a game that's had 3 sequels since then. When Smash 4 was the most recent entry, it was the main Smash game. It had the most characters, the most stages, the best visuals. All the same things I said about Ultimate, which is why when Ultimate came out, people didn't feel the need to go back to it, since Smash 4's exclusivities weren't enough to go back to a game that was just lesser in comparison. Melee is the rare case where how it's played competitively is so different in comparison to every other Smash game where it can stand out as its own unique experience, and has managed to stay alive because of that. But when you look outside of that and ask yourself, what does Melee have that I can't get from any other Smash game that would make it worth revisiting in comparison? I honestly can't say it has much. Yeah, adventure mode is cool, I like character-specific target tests, I miss trophies, but when people boot up Smash Bros, they generally don't care about that sort of stuff. They usually focus on just the experience of battling their friends with their favorite characters on an assortment of stages, listening to their favorite tunes, and why would they want to do that on a game that offers less of that in every way? With a game that you can only play if you have a console that's over 20 years old, assuming they already own it and didn't pay some crazy price online, or are willing to learn how to emulate it in order to experience. There's just no real reason to do so. That being said, Mayday is still a fun game. It's held up well and continues to offer the same joy as it did back then when it was released. So I guess to answer the title of this video, yeah, in terms of being a good game, Mayday does hold up. But it's not something you should be rushing to play if you already have Ultimate. Then again, I played Mayday out of novelty at first, and doing so made me discover the competitive scene, and now it's one of my favorite games to play on my downtime. I keep emphasizing the difference between casual and competitive throughout this video because they really do feel like different games. I like playing competitive Mayday more than I like playing Ultimate, but I think Ultimate makes playing casual Mayday sort of irrelevant. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Oh, whatever, I'm just rambling on at this point. If you made it this far into the video, I hope you enjoyed watching. Subscribe if you want to, or don't, I'm not your dad. And until next time,